As with any NBA controversy, there is always more to the story. And on today's episode of Locked On Suns, we will revisit the aftermath of the Patrick Beverley shove that was heard around the Valley and answer some of your questions heading into Thanksgiving. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendan Clean, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 6 seasons and a writer at Suns.com and Dime Magazine. Thank you all for making Locked On Suns your first listen today and every day. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you all are not working and not paying attention to anything outside of whatever makes you happy today. Whatever you're thankful for. But happy Thursday, as I said. We're here every Monday through Friday, except for tomorrow. And we'll be back on Monday after this. So hit subscribe, hit follow on whatever podcast platform you're finding us on. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you are. If you are on YouTube, go ahead and hit the bell down below. Get a notification when a show goes live. And drop a comment down below with your thoughts on Patrick Beverley. I'm not sure what was going on in yesterday's comments because it felt like none of you saw that had happened. You all wanted to talk about some other weird things within that game. The Suns blew out the Lakers other than that play. So we're going to talk more about that, the aftermath of it specifically. We had Inside the NBA responding. We had Deandre Ayton giving a Shakespearean monologue post-game. Joining me to talk about all of it is Aaron Edwards. Aaron, I want to just give you were in the building. And I was not, which is the opposite of typical. So I want to give you the floor of what you thought, because you did not seem to be as affected by it or as worried about it as most people. First, I want to let everybody know today's show brought to you by Sweatblock. If you are someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweatblock. Save 20% with the promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Okay, yeah. Give me your rundown, because on Twitter you did not seem to be bothered by this. I literally think one of your tweets was just like, "Can we move on? Can we please stop talking about it? This doesn't matter." But it's all anybody wants to talk about coming off of that primetime game, Aaron. So why is it not a big deal to you? Am I reading your reaction correctly?
I think it was because even when we woke up knowing that we played the Lakers yesterday, everybody's just like, what's PatBev going to do? Like, we knew something was going to happen. So I think just acknowledging that he did something like this, like, it's feeding into what he wanted to do anyway. He wanted to try to show, which I've seen on Twitter, that his players wouldn't stick up for him or whatever. And no, you just got mad like you always do because you were losing, and you only do this when you're down. And I think I tweeted during the game, I was like, I honestly forgot PatBev was even here. And I've seen him on the court. Like, he did nothing that game. At one point he had 0, 0, and 9 or something like that, and 9 rebounds. And I was just like, yeah, like, a flagrant is a stat that he probably wanted. Like, he finally got to do something. So that was probably why I just didn't want to acknowledge it. It was just, this is PatBev. He's on the Lakers to do this. He's he hates us for some reason. And I don't know. I just felt like feeding into it was just what he wanted to do. And we woke up knowing he was going to do something anyway. So I feel like we all should have just got together in the morning and been like, whatever PatBev does, let's not even care because he's gonna do something.
We got, like I said, a reaction from Ayton, which I was probably happening as I was recording yesterday, so I didn't get to talk about it. We'll save that for after the break. I want to stay on this first, Aaron. You mentioned exactly where my head was, which is what is it about the Suns that he hates? Because I know the obvious answers, but I don't fully get why he specifically hates this team specifically. Like, 2 of the worst moments of his career were pushing Chris Paul in Game 6 against the Clippers. I wouldn't say this is necessarily up there, but he got ejected. He may well get suspended or fined. We don't know. What is it? What is it about this oil and water or whatever it is? These things do not mix.
I think he thought he would have been in the finals by now, and I think the Suns were just unexpected. I think it was an unexpected thing to come up for him. Thing is, he doesn't beef with the Warriors like this, and they have whooped his ass a couple times.
That's
I
what
don't
I'm
know.
saying. It's not even like there's too big of a history between these teams. It's just like from the jump, he had a problem. Is it just Chris Paul? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it might be. Even though Chris Paul wasn't even in the game, he was just
Well, not this
relaxing.
time.
Yeah, I'm just like, I think it's just a beef with this team. I think it just goes with, it comes with him. I think he said to Steph, like, that one time when the Warriors were just awful, he was all like, you ran the last 5 years, like, now it's our turn. And he really thought that was like their shot to do it. And we went to the finals one year and we lost in the second round last year. But I think he thought that the run was going to be a lot easier, and Phoenix came out of nowhere. But I don't still understand where that much beef would come from. Like,
He
it
thought
doesn't.
his run on what team was going to be easier.
I
Dude
think the
can't even
Clippers.
stay on a team.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
guess. I
I
guess
think
the Clippers, but yeah, he his last blow, his last moment as a Clipper was pushing somebody after the series was in hand. So maybe that helped cement the departure from the team that he thought he was going to run things through with. I don't know. I don't have an answer. Obviously, it's not just the Suns. He has had the beef with Russell Westbrook up until this year when they're now teammates, and he's had problems with, I think he got fined for something last year when he was on the Wolves. I don't even remember all of the details there. He's standing up on the table in Minnesota when they clinch. Like, it's not to say he's only chaotic when he's playing the Suns, but something about it must get him. I'm wondering, because part of me was thinking about this part of it as well, and the aftermath was, there's been a few moments this year where I've seen a little bit of chatter of like, do the Suns need an enforcer like that? I don't know if I would call Pat Beverly one of those. He, like you said, he only tends to do this stuff when the game is fully decided. But Crowder used to be that, right? And I think where the Suns are at now is their best player is that. And like, this was kind of the inside the NBA where the conversation went with those guys. They all just started listing off who their enforcers were.
Oh yeah.
Like I think
Scott
it was
Skiles.
Scott Skiles, exactly.
Skiles.
Derek Fisher came up. Elliot Perry, I think, came up, and then Chuck just started saying none of the bad boy Pistons could actually fight, which was funny. But my point is, it is unusual for a player as good as Book to also be the guy that gets into it like this. He doesn't tend to do it physically the way Crowder or somebody might, but that's weird. Is that like a good situation for the Suns to be in, where Booker's going to be the guy most likely to fight somebody in a game, but he also is the most valuable player on the team?
I think like back in the day, like that's kind of how it was. Like Jordan fought with people. Iverson was always getting into it with people. I think that back then, like Hoopers just were more intense. Like I don't think the dudes are as intense now. So you're not gonna find like a really good player trying to like beef with people during games. But Book's a dude from Mississippi and Michigan. So like I think you kind of expect that. Draymond's from there. Like Book said he grew up around Draymond, like he used to send him shoes and stuff. Like those dudes are kind of just like that. So I think it comes from just being from where he's from and not just the type of player he is. Like some of these dudes are just grow up in it. But yeah, I think I would rather it not be Book. Like I always like wanted like a dude like PJ Tucker or dude from Memphis. I can't remember right now. Or not Memphis. From the Bucks. The Headband.
You're talking about Grayson Allen?
No, Headband.
Bobby Portis.
Yeah,
yes.
and Bobby Portis.
Yes.
Like
yes.
one of those type of dudes. Like I always wanted, so Book wouldn't have to do it all the time. I wish we had like one of those type of dudes.
I mean,
or
my
Morai
mind is
again.
going. What'd you say?
Or a Morai again.
I'm not ready for that now.
You don't want a Morai back?
I don't even know if Marcus is really that type of guy anymore. It seems like he's a lot of bark, not a lot of bite. I think Keith, though, with Jokic, anything is on the table with that after that situation. Isaiah Stewart, I think, is the championship belt holder right now in the NBA. He bloodied his face up trying to fight the best player in his generation last year. So Yeah, no, I don't think it's, I mean, look, is it the biggest deal in the world? No, I think you're right. It used to be more common. But look, I think the other part of that used to be more common is like this day and age, the game is officiated in a way where fighting, pushing, shoving, yelling, even cursing under your breath is none of this stuff is like accepted. And so I do sometimes worry if I'm the Suns that, Booker being that guy, he's not going to be the one to give up, his place in the game. He can't afford to get ejected or to get a tech in a bad moment. And so then, it helps to have those guys. Maybe that's part of the criteria for a Jay Crowder trade, which we'll talk about in a second. But let's get to the Ayton part of this. And honestly, what Booker said post-game, I think both are relevant here. First, I want to let everybody know today's show brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis all year long. We have the World Cup, which I've already told you, England, U.S. I'm not advocating for you to bet on the U.S. to win. I would not bully you like that. But draw odds are pretty good. And over-under is at 2.5 goals. I feel like the game will be more high-scoring than the Wales game was. All you got to do is get to 3 for that bet to cash. So lots of good stuff. And if you don't care about the U.S., there's tons of bets on all the games, all the different who's going to get to which round, all of it. So if you love sports betting, info, analysis, that's all there, as well as sports podcasts. You can find those on BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, I can't find it transcribed, Aaron. We were trying to do that before we hit record, but I would recommend people go find Dwayne Rankin's Twitter feed, or it was on I believe the YouTube or the Instagram page is Planet Orange, if I'm remembering correctly. He posted it. Long answer from Deandre Ayton post-game, talking about playing for Monty Williams, talking about if you think tonight was as far as we were looking in the season, like it seems like these guys were, then you're wrong. We know what we're here for. We got embarrassed the past 2 years. We're not going to let stuff like this get in the way. A whole bunch of different directions. I have a question for you. We were just talking about fighting and who's enforcers. I do feel a little bit worried saying this about a guy who's like 2 feet taller than me, but was this actually bold and like making a statement, or was this just Deandre Ayton being a little bit corny?
I think it was kind of bold, like acknowledging the embarrassment part. Like they know that they blew it the last 2 years. And I think knowing that and acting like it didn't happen is where teams mess up. So I think just having the bigger picture thing in your head, like they're not going for the number 1 seed. It's like that part of growing in the league is over. Like, I'm sure it was fun, especially for a dude as young as DA, like having the best record in NBA. Not a lot of dudes get to do that and be like a top seed and do that in your career, but he's been to the finals now. He's had the top record in the NBA, and the seasons are long. Like, I think it's kind of more maturity that it sounded like yesterday was like the season's long. We went for it last year, but now, there is bigger stuff. Like, we just want to be healthy. We want to be playing the best that we can. We're shorthanded, and we're not going to deal with just, like, petty stuff during games in November. Like, it just doesn't make any sense when, like you said, they got embarrassed, and they're thinking of bigger stuff now.
That's all fair. I should have just let you answer, because now I put out there that I thought it was a little bit corny, and then you just, like, took the high road and actually, like, broke it down. No, I don't think it is. I think with Ayton, it's just always hard to tell where his head's at. Like, he's very reactive. And so, like, last night, that's obviously a reasonable way to feel. I wouldn't be surprised if the reason all that might have been in his head is if that wasn't a little bit what maybe Beverly or whoever was saying to them in the game, right? Like, We know this stuff happens. We heard about it with Klay Thompson and Book at the beginning of the year, that they were going back and forth about, basically like, show me how many rings are on your hand. Oh yeah, 0 types of stuff. Right. And so I think it's totally understandable. Ayton's head would have been in that space last night. He he received the push that led to all of it. What I just struggle with that guy is that's not how he necessarily holds himself night to night, right? Like, do you watch him and feel like he's bearing the embarrassment and the humiliation and I'm going to be the guy to bring us out of that? Like, no, that's not what happened. So it's just tough. It's hard to read him. And I don't believe that after this, he's going to go forward and like be really pushed because of what just happened. I just think it's another night.
Yeah, that was like the confusing part was, and he was like, I got to go answer to Monty if like I retaliated, and that's like more worrying than the league suspended me or something like that. It's like, if you have to answer to Monty for retaliating, you should answer to him for a lot of the stuff on how you don't play physical and how you don't get to the line and like all this stuff. Like, if you're going to answer to Monty and be scared of what he'd say, like, take that into the whole thing. Like, take that into account for how you even play ball. Like, not even if somebody's testing you. Like, be scared of Monty for how your game is, not from like all the small petty stuff that's on the court.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. I want to get to people's questions. We have one more for this segment, which is from Matt Durag Hoops. He just said Bruce Bowen or Patrick Beverley. That's easy. That's not even a hard answer. Bruce Bowen wanted to hurt people. Patrick Beverley wants to show that he's tough.
Yeah, Bruce Bowen wanted to hurt people, and he won because of it. Like, I think,
and he did hurt people. Not even just wanted to. Yeah,
I think like the fact that Bruce Bowen did it so well and got away with it and won rings because of it makes him worse. Like, PatBev isn't. I think I said yesterday, like, PatBev is a Chucky doll. Like, yes, Chucky technically kills people, but if he kills you, that's kind of your fault. It's a doll. Like, don't let it get the upper hand on you. With Bruce Bowen, like, he took it. Like, he won finals because he was kind of an asshole.
I just Googled Bruce Bowen injuring people. All right. YouTube, Bruce Bowen injures Steve Francis. That's one of the most famous ones. Ballislife.com has an article that's just called Bruce Bowen's greatest dirty hits, kicks, and trips. Reddit has a whole thread of a history of Bruce Bowen's dirty play filled with leg kicks, and then it dots off with more descriptions of all the other types of things that he did. A Lakers forum up here says Bruce Bowen, a.k.a. the dirtiest player of all time. There's articles about Damon Stoudemire saying Bruce Bowen tried to hurt him, or that might be Amari Stoudemire. Amari Stoudemire, said the San Antonio Spurs are a dirty team and that Bruce Bowen tried to hurt him. He kicked me purposely in the back of my Achilles. So it's Bruce Bowen.
Yeah, by a large margin. Like, I don't even take PatBev stuff serious. Like,
is Bruce Bowen the best villain in the history of the NBA like that? Is he number one?
I mean, you would probably have to ask like people that had to deal with the Bad Boys Pistons who just were all like, even though Charles Barkley said they can't fight, they were all like pretty dirty. But Bruce Bowen, I think
Bill Laimbeer fought Larry Bird, right? And Chuck is saying he can't fight. Like, we saw it happen on a screen. Anyway, you were going. I'm sorry.
I think the Bruce Bowen thing, I think because the Spurs were just supposed to be like this wholesome, like by the book team, and it was just this one dude that wasn't out there shooting bank shots and just getting rebounds. Like, the Spurs were supposed to be boring during that time, and Bruce Bowen was just that dude that sucked. Like, he just made everything so terrible, and he just like sucked. Like, it's just not even close. Bruce Bowen was just so dirty.
It's one of those things we can all appreciate in retrospect, Bruce Bowen, but obviously Suns fans probably won't appreciate us laughing about it now. I'm looking through that article about the Achilles, and it's like this whole breakdown of how dirty he is and whether it's legit. And it's funny. It's an article from 2007, and you can tell that the writer's like not fully comfortable using the internet to like report on stuff yet, because it says a video on YouTube appears to show Bowen, an all NBA defensive selection, kicking Stoudemire's leg from behind. But, then there's like, we don't know for sure. Like, they weren't even ready to trust a YouTube video at that point. So I think he benefited from some of that stuff, that it happened right at the last second that stuff was going to be acceptable. He was a dying breed a little bit. But let's keep going with some questions from you all. We have some trade questions, some fun Suns questions about the City Edition stuff. So we'll dive into that in just 1 second. First, today's show, folks, brought to you by Sweatblock. Let's see. Aaron was just at the Lakers game last night. I have this experience at the Suns Arena because they blow the living hell out of the air conditioning, and you layer up. And then all of a sudden there's people, there's movement, things get a little crazy, there's screaming, and then you're hot and you're sweating and it's uncomfortable and it's embarrassing because you're in public, and that arena never is consistent with what temperature it's going to be. But maybe it's holidays, maybe it's going out with family, whatever it might be, you will be able to fix that problem with Sweatblock. The Sweatblock wipes have been a bestseller on Amazon for the past 10 years with over 10,000 5-star reviews. So whether you are going to a Suns game or just spending time with loved ones, you want to look your best, you want to feel your best, you don't want to be uncomfortable or embarrassed. So don't miss the opportunity to try Sweatblock. If you or someone you love is experiencing that embarrassing sweater odor, try Sweatblock today. Save 20% when you do by using the promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. They're also available on shelves or at Amazon. Today's show also brought to you by My Solar Nerd. If you live in Arizona, which I'm sure many of you do, you've had people come up to your door and tell you that they're there to sell you what they call free solar, but you know it's not. They're just trying to get your money. But My Solar Nerd's mission is simple: help you get the best solar system to fit your needs. The guys at mysolarnerd.com really are local, and they understand the nuances of going solar in Arizona. They also believe a happy customer is an educated customer, and they believe that if you live in Arizona, switching to solar should mean saving money, not spending more. Once you're ready, they'll put their industry knowledge to work for you by choosing the best equipment, warranties, and installers in their network. And on the back end, they'll make sure you have all the credits and incentives you may qualify for so that your transition is as smooth as possible. Our listeners will get a $50 Amazon gift card when you book a no-commitment evaluation. This promotion, again, only for Locked On listeners and only for homeowners. No apartment complex solar panels, unfortunately, yet. But visit mysolarnerd.com and select Locked On in the How'd You Hear About Us section. Make the switch to solar on your terms and start your research process today by visiting mysolarnerd.com and show Locked On some love by letting them know we sent you. Folks, going solar doesn't need to be complicated, and mysolarnerd.com makes it easy. Okay, Aaron, so let's start here. A fun one. It is Thanksgiving after all. People are not looking to be stressed out by the Phoenix Suns. What do you think of the Teal Suns jerseys? You, again, were at the game last night. I believe that was probably your first time seeing them in person. I think it was their only second or third home game wearing them. What are your thoughts? I feel like when you really see the court and all of it together, at least for me, that helped. But what do you think?
Yeah, I like it. My friend Anthony that I went with yesterday, he had just gotten the black jacket that has the teal thing on it, and it looks really dope. Even though he showed up as a Laker fan, but
that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
I saw your IG story, and the guy had a Lakers jersey on. So please explain more here.
He says he's from here, but he grew up with Kobe and Shaq, so like he leaned into the Laker thing, but he also likes the Suns. It's really random, and
you can't
I know
like
it doesn't
both.
make it.
That's just not an option.
We had this argument, but yeah, so he got the jacket still. So he just he crosses lines. Like that's the best I could say. But I like the jerseys. Like,
yeah,
I feel like when teams kind of go way too far that I usually don't like it, and they kind of leave the colors, like their real colors behind. But that's why I hated we've had colors that were technically ours, like the orange and gray ones that Steve Nash had to wear. And those were awful. But I think we kind of nailed this, even though it's not like our colors. I like what it stands for and what they're using it for. So yeah, I like these.
If people have not checked out the pregame intro video, I think the Suns have tweeted it out at this point. I know I've retweeted it. Gerald put it out there. Yeah, it's awesome. The way that it was shot with the interspersing of the Suns highlights with the super dope chant and dance stuff going on the floor itself, and then the music in the background that's all full with the chanting and whatever. It's really, really cool. The court is super decked out with the new sunburst with the feathering and everything. It has the names of all the different tribes that are in Arizona across the baselines or the sidelines, I mean. And Yeah, it's really cool. And they did go all out with it, which I thought, like, to me, that ended up being the best part. I feel like if they had just kind of like halfway done it and just put some blue jerseys out there, it would have been not great for me, because I'm the same
Yeah.
way as you, where like I want the team to at least wear the same colors. But they really committed to it, and I think that makes it pay off. Like it just feels like a Suns jersey now. Like I already in like 2 weeks, I'm like, it's just one of the jerseys the Suns wear. I don't even notice it that much. And yeah, I think that's a testament to them. They went all out. They really did a good job.
Yeah, I can tell it's a hit because like it's like not every day a team like gives this big of a shout out to like a marginalized group. And yesterday, like they were like on the intercom or whatever, like the PA dude, like he gave a shout out to like all the tribes, and like the second he would name one, like it would be a corner that would like go off and like be crazy, and then he'd name another one, and then like another part of the stadium would go crazy. So like they're in the building and they're repping their tribes, and it's not every day they get to have something like that. And in Phoenix, like I've played against like Native American leagues, like they have hoopers, they love basketball. So
yeah, they do.
So like the fact that they're getting a shout out like this in Phoenix is pretty tough.
It is, yeah. And they've been playing over the intercom. They'll have like the players announcing the different names of the tribes. They've been playing the answer that Monty gave on the first night, which is like incredibly deep and kind of like not what you normally would hear to hype people up at a sporting event. But yeah, it's really cool. I was talking to Cody Cunningham, who does social media for them, the first night. He had that same starter jacket. And so I was like, oh, those are really cool, whatever. And he was saying, like maybe this should have been obvious to me, but especially just the way that it in sports, we know Native Americans get the complete opposite type of treatment with team names and imagery and all that type of stuff. So to really do it and like incorporate the tribe's input and everything else, very big shout out to them. It's not something I've really talked about on the show because it just hasn't come up. Game days are always like, I want to talk about the game. So appreciate you. That question was from Logan Scott McMurdo. I think we have time for one more here, and we can combine a few. As always, people love to ask about trades. Tom at Masco Tommy said, when is the trade coming? And then Coda Kid at Coda_Sufki said, the curiosity of Sadiq Bey being on the market, which that came from Jake Fisher this morning. So where are you at? Like we have talked about this ad nauseum. I really thought something was going to happen, but last week with the Grayson Allen thing, Aaron, but the more that I see some of these names and how weird the league is, I do feel like it makes sense why James Jones is waiting, because I think there's going to be some guys available that we're just not expecting, where it's going to, like KJ Martin on the Rockets. That's a name we've talked about a lot. There's no reason that guy should just be available for a contender. But if there's a chance to get a player like that or Sadiq Bey, I would understand the patience, and the Suns are winning games anyway. So why not wait?
Yeah, that's why like it's hard to answer the trade question now. Like if we were bombing and like playing terrible, we're technically down 3 starters and we're first in the West. So I think the worst thing that could have happened is James Jones not having to be in a rush. So I think that he's James Jones in it. He's probably going to zig while we're all talking about certain people. And he's just always been known to go the opposite way, even if it's awful. And so like, yeah, we've talked about this so much. I can't get in the mind of James Jones. I think us not being terrible is going to make this last a lot longer than it should. And I'm not saying I wish we were bad and so it would force his hand, but I just wish it was done already. And us being kind of really good is not helping the situation.
How far, like, what would have had to happen or what will have to happen for him to be rushed? Like, what does that even look like, rushing James Jones? I can't picture an instance where he would be in a hurry for anything, let alone making a big change for the team that he runs. Like, would Book have to like just pull a Kyrie and leave the team for weeks? Like, I don't even know what it would be.
Yeah, I don't like, he just doesn't, I'm not going to say doesn't do anything, but I feel like he just we'd have to be embarrassing. Like we'd have to fall to 10th or something. And the fans would have to there would have to be rumblings or something. Like, I don't know what forces this dude's hand. Like I can't put a finger on this dude. Like he just waits and waits and waits. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he waited till All-Star break or something. Like, that's how crazy he is.
Yeah. And Cam is going to be back seemingly, like probably by the end of the year. He's already, it seems like out of any sort of cast or boot or anything like that. And he was at least taking free throws today at practice. So there's no rush. There's no reason to rush. I think that the only reason is so all of us have something to talk about and for the rumor mill to go away, but that's not going to rush James Jones at all. So that's a great place to leave it. I think if there's a trade, because that was how I wanted to segue, if there's a trade, I will do another podcast this week. But otherwise, I will enjoy my Thanksgiving. Aaron, you do the same. Everybody listening, you do the same as well. Hit subscribe or follow. Make sure you are locked into having this show in your feed Monday when it is back. And in the meantime, make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. Catch up on the Thanksgiving Day football games, all of that to close out your week. That show's available wherever you get podcasts, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.